Welcome once again to Space in Harmony, in Harmonia of Life. The piece of music you just heard is a composition that was elaborated, so to say, from my heart. And around 2012, spontaneously I decided to record it in the iPod to see how it was the quality of sound. And I remember that by that time I already entitled the piece Listening to the Heart of Life, because I knew there was something inside me that had to be expressed, and this energy was accumulating, generating frustration and sadness, sorrow. But because of different adversities of existence, I felt blocked with some fears and confusion about how to express that which had to come out. And curiously, this recording took place about 2 years before the health crisis, the crisis I already mentioned in several videos, from which I recovered gradually. There are some traces left, but I'm feeling better each day. And this is something that was very well expressed by Master Yeshua in one of his sayings, collected in the Gospel of Thomas, one of the most ancient ones. And this logion says, if you don't bring forth what's inside you will destroy you. He was surely referring to the original life and full potential that the Holy One gives us as a gift, so we can express His love and life in our individual, unique life, and thus help others find that love and light and life in themselves. But when we are not able to find the way, and our shadow gets into that way, then we get distracted and hijacked, literally, by shadows which are not an essential part of our being. There are many dark forces which are not interested in our flourishing, in our development, because that would be their end. And we must understand that the life that we've been given, which is actually the essence of our being, is not inferior to the source itself, but an emanation of it. As Yeshua's teaching says, we are the face of the Father when we express His love and life. It's not that the origin is a father in itself, or a mother in itself, or a son in itself. These are just functions, qualities, expressions of that infinite source. So we are not dealing with a trinity of gods or three divine persons. The source is even beyond what we may refer to as God, because God and the adversary are already external expressions which are somehow far away from the source, because they already belong to the tree of knowledge of good and deficient. Actually, God, or Elohim as it's known in the scripture, are the forces of nature. And we may call it also the immune system of the cosmos, since it filters everything that is an obstacle. It's the filter of all egotistic attitudes, the filter of all forms of ego, which I describe as the experience of great obscurity or obfuscation. And this is never separate from an adversary, because if there is God, then there is also an opponent. And this opponent is not separate, but the result of one force that turns into the opposite direction because of an obstruction. And God could be the function of filtering that obstruction. This is why Shaul Paul said that God cannot be deceived. As you sow, you shall reap. So if you plant a loving life, that will grow and you will receive more of that. On the contrary, if you plant hatred and criticism and lack of understanding with others, then that's what you will receive. Curiously, in ancient times, one of the ways of referring to God was the dog. This is why when you read God backwards, you get dog. And a dog can be the best friend, very faithful, a good companion, if you treat him properly and feed him with the proper food. But if you let him starve and beat him, sooner or later he will jump over someone. And the same takes place with Elohim, the forces of nature, which we may call God, which can easily turn into the adversary. Actually, this is what took place in what some call creation. It was more organization. You can see how Elohim commands Adam to dominate something which has nothing to do with love. Illumined by the teaching of true light, we can understand that Elohim turns into luminous serpents, transformed love, the seraphim as they are known. Otherwise they turned into dragons, the Ouroboros, which eats its own tail. Actually, the dragon was the maker of the famous serpent being, or Nahash, that tempted Adam and Hava, the first luminous humanity. You already have an article, Will You Bear the Truth? And a video as well, the last one, not the previous. Now we must also understand that in this double face of God, or the universe, if you will, the forces of nature, we can bring harmonia so long as we express what comes from the source, which is, like I said, deeper than God. If we don't bring unicity into the world of forces, then we find adversity. So our mission here is very clear, but we usually don't do what we are meant to do, because we allow ourselves to be taken by the ego, experience of great obfuscation. And this obfuscation is what leads to the generation of religion, which are all based on division. There is no one single religion which does not separate itself from other religion, or one form of politics which is not separating itself from other politics, and paradigms of science that split apart and they attack nature actually. Moreover, we must realize that when we express our true life, we are not creatures created by some creator. That is a religious view which is actually not present in a scripture when it is properly translated from the Hebrew wisdom, since we are emanated, and then other beings organized things in their own way and all went wrong. In fact, one of the problems of considering ourselves as inferior to some god or to some leader of some kind always generates the complex of inferiority and lack of self-worth, and eventually the frustration inside turns into rebellion, which leads to a complex of superiority, pride in another form. Pride is actually behind these two complexes. Yeshua expressed his teaching very clearly. I am the light of the cosmos and you are the light of the cosmos. Father, keep them safe in the name you gave me, so they are one with me as I am one with you. We find that in John 17. And he is referring to the unicity in which everything is supporting each other as an expression of the origin. There is no higher and lower. We all can express an aspect of the Holy One, and our potential is infinite actually. This is why Yeshua said, I am the way, the truth and the life. And only when we are also the way, the truth, and the life, can we be our own will, which is an emanation of the will of the Father. Our I amness is not separate from His I amness. We all live and are in the great I am. In Him we live, move, and have our being. Acts 17. So having said this, the message I'd like you to ponder deeply today is about looking inside and feel what your heart is really telling. Not the psychological heart, but the true, essential heart. The loving space that leads to the truth the Holy One gave you to express, and find out the way to manifest that. And an important aspect of this message is that only when we express our true essence can our physical immune system, our psychological immune system, and our spiritual immune system as well be strengthened. Otherwise, if we allow ourselves to be taken by sorrow, frustration, resentment, hate against the situation and others, then we lose all immunity against the darkness that surrounds us. And then conflict, war, division and illness, poverty in all domains come very easily. Do not allow yourself be taken by any darkness, any criticism. Trust in the force, in the will that's coming from within, which can actually overcome anything. For when we take the courage to express what we really are, then even Elohim, the forces of nature, or God, if you will, helps us. Actually, there is an old saying, God helps he who helps himself. Obviously, help himself express a life without complexes of any kind. Not inferior, not superior. Obviously, this is not easy because it implies overcoming mechanicalness, our own selfishness, which has been implanted. It doesn't belong to us really. And we can only overcome it by means of humility and also the blessings we've been given. So for now, thank you for listening and feel your blessings.